Our purpose is to really leverage our collective expertise to provide you with some information about things that have just occurred or are on the horizon, and to talk a little bit about what we're learning. So that's our format for these meetings. We have three more coming up in the upcoming months before the next school year. May, June, we're taking July off, and then August 6th. They're always the first Thursday of the month. One of the things I'd like to point out to you is on last month's summary of updates, um, which you all received, we had a couple of great, just exciting highlights we wanted to feature. One is partner profiles. I'll pull that up on Core Tools in just a moment. It's a great opportunity for you to brand your collection and to show the work that you are doing. One of the great things about it, if you look below the Arkansas Department of Education logo, you'll see a little link there. You're able to send your um, folks a direct URL to your collection. And then also, we're going to begin to be able to have individual user profiles. They're now active. So exemplary module authors will have badges. People taking and completing online courses will eventually have badges, and also jurors. So it's a great opportunity to share a little bit about yourself, and as you're looking at modules, to know a little bit about who created that module. The other thing we're really excited about, and we've just got a few examples ready. We have 8 to 10 groups of partners that are piloting these things, are featured partner collections. I'm going to pause a moment and pull up Core Tools so that you can see exactly where we are. When we think about a partner collection, one of the ways I might want to search for resources besides skill or discipline or grade level is by the people I know. Um, I might want to see what's happening with things that Barry Olson's created because of her work on academic writing. I might want to see things that are being created by Kentucky or the National Writing Project or so on. These are the examples of people that are piloting the partner profiles. Any organization can be added to create a partner collection. If you take a look at IU13, one of the things you're going to notice is that partner collections are going to have this little featured, which means in a search they're going to be sticky, they're going to come up sooner, be seen more often. When I scroll over here to Lancaster, Lebanon, IU13, I'm going to be able to see their partner profile. There's that nice little link to a URL to the collection. And then when I look at the collection, I'm going to see that it's basically a collection of resources that have been marked good to go or exemplary, but anything could go in that collection. So just a bundle of improvement I'm really excited about. A great way for you to create and share resources with your local community. The other thing from the summary of updates that I just wanted to make sure caught your eye is this improvement to the skill selector. It was a feature of a blog this week. And if you take a look, it's now more clear whether you're selecting a default skill and you can start typing or click one, or if you want to create your own unique skill, you can go ahead and type that or put your definition there. We think that'll add some more flexibility and customization for our users. So some things we're really excited about as we get started this month. Um, as we take a look, I'm going to pull up our agenda and the resources from this month. You'll see that there are the Twitter chat flyer that can be distributed, workshop flyers, the agenda, the summary of updates, and two great resources from folks from the community who'll be sharing today. Alex Horton from New Tech Network, and also Cal Hastings from Gen Ready. We'll take a moment and pull up our agenda. And as I do, I just wanted to check to see if there's any questions or if anybody had any comments related to the summary of updates. Some pretty exciting developments. Okay. Just going to take a moment. And what I'd like to do is to turn the conversation over to one of our partners, Generation Ready. Cal Hastings is on, and we are just super excited to have Generation Ready as a partner. Many of you know the great reputation of their coaches, affectionately formerly known as the Aussies, from around the country. Cal is organization is one of the first of our new partners who are training their coaches using the online courses to flip training for coaches and to begin to think about how that impacts their professional development model. I'm going to pull up a document that Cal is sharing. Their first PD launch is in Salem, Massachusetts, and they're learning a lot from it. They've also been joining us in the work in Syracuse, New York. And so we're just super excited with the way they're thinking about PD. And each month, as we have legacy partners share and new partners share, I think we can learn so much from each other. I'm going to turn it over to Cal, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up the document that he shared with everybody, which is something great to put in your own thinking. Hi, Cal, are you there? And are you able to speak? Hi, Cal. So, Cal, we can't hear you yet at this point.
Cal, if you're having trouble, go ahead and click on your microphone.
Just bear with Cal for a moment here. I see Cal is typing.
Okay,
So
have you tried clicking on the
microphone
at the top of your screen? It should be green if it's working correctly.
And while he's working on that, I know that Alex is also waiting in the wings to share about New Tech Network. So, as Cal is working with his microphone, I think we'll see if Alex might be ready. Alex, are you able to speak?
Sure, I can go ahead and get.
Why don't we do that? That'll give Cal a little bit of time. And Cal, we're not offended if you break in and say hi at any point as well. Let me pull this right up.
So just to check, can everyone hear me okay?
You can certainly signal or clap.
Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to just share about how we at New Tech Network have been thinking about LDC and integrating modules and tasks. Please feel free to chime in with any questions you might have in the chat as we do that. And Cal, of course, let us know if you're ready as well. So New Tech Network is an educational nonprofit, and we partner with about 150 schools across the U.S. at every level. We really focus on strong professional and student culture, technology-rich environment, and project-based learning. And so I'll take a couple minutes just to share how we're bringing LDC into that. So what we often see happen in schools instructionally is a kind of atomized or discrete series of activities. They might be linked because of a focus on particular standards, but students may not feel really a sense of cohesiveness or that things are built.
That might have been your problem right there. See if they can hear you.
We've got some background noise now.
Please remember, if microphone is
I think it might be Cal trying to work things out. Alex, if you could go ahead right now, we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I just need to take a moment to reconnect my audio. Yeah, so you might see a kind of discrete series of activities that may or may not culminate in some kind of project. And then at some point, teachers may stop and do a module. So at NTN, we do something called project-based learning, which I'll introduce you to really fast, just in case you need that context. So rather than doing a kind of an activity, lecture, quiz, that sort of thing, and then following up with a project, everything is within the context of the project. So all the things that you might normally do all build towards solving a problem or creating an authentic and real-world problem. So for example, a chemistry teacher might normally teach about atomic structure. Later in the year, they might teach a little bit about nuclear chemistry. But those things may be sort of disjointed or discrete, but they can all be brought together under the aegis of a project. So the teacher would introduce a project, say, about creating a public service campaign for a local environmental agency, would do the same kinds of activities and lectures, etc., that he or she might have done otherwise, but it's all towards creating this product that will be used actually be used in the community. So we've been thinking a lot about how to bring tasks into this process, and we thought you got a brief preview. We had some challenges we were facing in our project-based learning units as well. If you wouldn't mind moving that slide one forward. Thank you. One of them was some lack of rigor. There's a lot of applied learning, but sometimes the products were fun and missed out on the depth of learning we wanted. And then reading, writing tasks were disconnected often, and I'm sure you experience this as well. But figuring out how to really encourage content area teachers to bring in literacy intensive tasks was difficult. So with some help from Eleanor, among others, we really tried to figure out how, we saw LDC tasks and modules as a real opportunity to address those challenges, but we really wanted them to be integrated, seamless, and not feel like we're going to stop and do an essay now. So we decided to integrate them into project-based units. And if you wouldn't mind moving one forward, we do that in a couple of ways. One thing that we see teachers doing is that there's a written accompaniment product or presentation, and often that will be a task. Or we might have it as a concrete step, benchmark we call them, along the way to completing the final product. So for example, a lot of projects have a research phase where students are learning about the atom and fission and nuclear chemistry, for example. And so that portion of the project might culminate in a research paper that could also be a task, for example. So we really just focusing on that. Yeah, and so there's an example there with a driving question. The task was really a way, sort of an accompaniment to the final product. And it was an op-ed that was part of the student's final campaign. And it required answering the driving question. And the nice thing about this is it was seamlessly integrated into the project. So it was motivational and interesting for students. But it also gave the teacher a really clear sense of the student's depth of understanding of the content and the driving question itself. So it made the writing meaningful to both students and the teacher. So I want to stop there. I covered a few things quickly. And just say that you're absolutely welcome to throw some questions into the chat if you're wondering how we're doing this. So as I noted, it's more motivational. Tasks are often really rich this way. I mean, we really ask teachers, okay, so what is it that's so important for students to know? What do you want students to really think deeply about? Okay, that's what your task should be about. We also have disciplinary rubrics, discipline-specific rubrics that can be, and tasks can be assessed using those. So it allows teachers to see where students are as they approach college readiness standards. We do still have some challenges, though, that we're still thinking about. A big one is that, as you already know, I know, modules take time. PBL takes time. You really have to focus on deeper, not broader, as far as content coverage, and that's a big switch for people. And it's still sometimes tricky for content area teachers to think about meaningful and authentic writing tasks that address content and fit seamlessly into a project. And it's a challenge. It's good thinking for a teacher, but it's a challenge still. So that's kind of our brief overview. And I'd love to hear if you have any questions. Feel free to share those in the chat. And if you have any thoughts on how you make things more motivational for students and how you really integrate tasks into the work of the year, I'd love to hear that as well.
Let's have to open it up to everybody and also talk a little bit about one of the reasons why I really wanted Alex, who's just been a part of the LDC community for so long, to talk is because I think it's important to acknowledge when you're going to work with schools and sites, and some of you are representing a school, that there are so many different things happening in schools. Maybe the school has a reading apprenticeship orientation, and in New Tech Network's case, it's a PBL orientation. And, you know, we don't want silos, LDC in one, PBL in another, reading apprenticeship, you know, whatever it is we're doing. Um, we want to look for ways to integrate and for things to fit together in sensible ways, to take the best of both worlds. So I just think it's a great, what New Tech has done is a great model where they've addressed a problem of practice they were having by incorporating LDC to use that. I think it's great too, particularly as we're thinking about some of these big district launches, the work that's going to be happening through I3. If you're a PD provider who is entering into a new context, we want to recognize all the great things that are already happening and find our entry points. We want folks to see LDC as flexible and multidimensional. I'm hoping that we have Cal Hastings able to speak. Let's take a look here and see.
Hello, how is everybody?
Hi, Cal. You sound great.
Awesome. Yeah, well, we were able to troubleshoot that. I apologize for that. Thanks for your patience. So are we ready to go? Awesome. So I just wanted to so Generation Ready is excited to be a new partner organization of LDC. As a new organization, you know, we're on the first part of a steep learning curve, but one in which, you know, we've kind of had the opportunity to jump right into this winter with a strong partnership in Salem, Massachusetts, with the district where we are working with a cohort of ELA and social studies teachers across a middle school and a high school to use the LDC as a vehicle to adapt existing existing units of study that will be implemented actually later this month. And so, because of the moment in time in which we partnered with LDC, we had the opportunity to really think from the onset about integrating the online course, Course One, into our methodology for both training up our staff of school-based consultants or coaches, and how we were thinking about implementing this work with our first partner school. And so what I wanted to do is just kind of talk through briefly like how we envisioned this first model of support for our first district partnership, and just kind of lay out what the cycle of work has been, and then I'd love to get feedback and input from folks on you know, ideas that they would have around improving our practice. So the document that you're looking at is just a document that we shared out with the team of teachers from the middle school and the high school that we're working with in Salem. And this came after a half-day launch session where we provided an overview for the cohort of teachers along with the district and school level administrators on LDC, kind of a high-level overview, and then an orientation around the LDC website and core tools, and then assured that everybody had access to Course One. And then what we really asked them to do is to engage in completing modules 1.1 to 1.5 in order to really build kind of a much stronger background knowledge around the LDC process. And within that work, we ahead of time identified 3 mini tasks that we were going to teach into explicitly that we thought were going to be, that would be generic to almost any of the work that we would want to be doing around a common template related to creating an argumentative essay. And so while the cohort of teachers were completing the coursework, we began a series of cycles of on-site coaching where we would work with the teachers to begin to implement key aspects of the mini tasks that we were going to support the build out into their eventual modules, which again were going to be the next set of adaptation from curriculum units that had been previously designed. And so we did a full day workshop where we explicitly taught into our mini tasks and had opportunities as a peer group to be able to kind of model and fishbowl those. And then, as you can see, if you could scroll up a little bit on this document, we followed up with kind of 3 cycles of coaching where our coaches would spend planning time with teams of teachers, both in ELA and social studies. We designated 1 coach for the middle school and 1 coach for the high school. And in the planning, they would integrate the mini tasks within the current instructional cycles that the teachers were engaged in and have an opportunity to model those, observe teachers in implementing them, and provide feedback and coaching around that. And so we completed 2 cycles of that while the teams of teachers were then working on completing course 1. And the completion of the course 1 was actually the curriculum design around their, the next stage of what they had planned to teach in a forthcoming unit of study. And then the final cycle of coaching, which is actually occurring next week, is when they'll actually implement we're actually calling it a mini module because the scope of the work allowed us to really only set up to do about a 3-week cycle of work. So our coaches will be at the sites next week supporting the teachers in actually launching the module that they designed in the back half of course 1. The work will then culminate on May 5th, where we'll have an opportunity to really look at the student work products that have come out of the mini modules and then reflect on the connection between the instructional design and the student work product, and then make adaptations of the modules moving forward for their next iteration. It'll also then give us an opportunity to reflect on a whole on this very brief but rather intense cycle of work that has introduced a cohort of teachers to LDC, given them the opportunity to complete course 1, learn a set of basic mini tasks, access core tools in order to find other mini tasks that would support them in meeting their instructional objectives, design their first mini module, and then be able to implement it and have student work product out of it. For our district partners, they're really looking to see really 3 key measures of success. One is, what's the evidence that teacher practice has evolved around explicit teaching to support students in effectively completing an argumentative-based essay? 2, actual curriculum products, like a next iteration in their curriculum design as evidenced by the mini modules. And then 3, improvement in student literacy as evidenced in the student work products that will be collected as a result of this cycle of work. So we're learning a lot in this first iteration about how to use course 1, both to support our staff as well as the teachers and administrators we're supporting in the district. And I'm sure that as we begin to get lessons learned from the implementation of the mini modules and from the student work products, we'll go through kind of an iterative cycle of improving our kind of standard methodology as we move forward with our next partnerships. So it's kind of a brief overview, I know we could populate the chat if folks have any questions or suggestions, recommendations. They'd certainly be welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cal. Let's use the chat. And also, if you take a look up at your toolbar, if your microphone is green, that means you're on. If you may need to you just pull it up. I've got 2 browsers going today. You can see that my microphone is green, and I can mute, I can adjust it, I can make sure that I've actually picked the microphone that I can use. You can also see that, like Alex has herself muted right now. So if there's a red line going through where your name is, you can see that you are on mute. So I would love to. I'm seeing a lot of things coming up in the chat, and really appreciate the multiple conversations here. One of the things that we'll make sure we do is archive the chat so that you have the notes. But one of the things, and please feel free to jump in verbally as well as if you'd like, that you can see in both Alex and Cal's work is these iterative cycles of feedback, that there's feedback loops, that the work they're doing is situated in a context that makes sense. For Alex, situated, the tasks and the pieces of LDC are situated within that project design. And really for Cal, looking at how that's situated in redesigning the curriculum that teachers are already using. Any thoughts or comments, or Cal or Alex, now that you've heard each other, there's a method to my madness in terms of having you both share any other comments you make. And Alex is also asking you for, I see, key takeaways.
So I just posted up the key takeaway. It's pretty obvious, I think, but we just found that, course one can be very overwhelming. We found it overwhelming both for our coaches who are pretty experienced in this work, but particularly for the teachers. And so, important for us to have to kind of go through 1.1 to 1.5 and then have a chance where we were going to meet with the cohort of teachers face to face to kind of check in and debrief and check for understanding and clarification before we just moved ahead and had them actually work the second half of the course and use that as a vehicle to begin to design their MIDI module. And I would say that one thing that has been tremendous about this partnership is the level of district and school building leadership engagement. We've actually, we had a high school principal actually sit in for the whole workshop and actually engage in aspects of course one, which, this is probably a 1,600 student high school. So that's been really powerful. But again, the big takeaway I think is definitely the pace and chunk course one. And I would just say that I was somewhat I don't know if concern is the right word, but I really wondered how this team of teachers who did not have a lot of experience in any type of an online course would react to it, and like they reacted extremely positively to it, and I think really loved being able to access the content through different vehicles, both the kind of multimedia format of course one, but also having a chance to do it independently, debrief it. I'm sure they debriefed it as teams at their school, and then collectively when we rejoined them for our kind of one-day workshop.
What I'm hoping that we can do is continue to feature all the different ways we do LDC. The problems of practice that LDC is solving for schools and districts, and the different ways that we can implement it. Having been involved early on, that sense of it, LDC being overwhelming, it's something where we want to avoid that. We want productive struggle, certainly, but we want to pace and chunk and make the work seem manageable and doable, to build that teacher sense of efficacy. As I'm tongue tangled here today. So thanks again, Alex and Cal.
So I was just going to add one more thing, if that's okay, about our experience with course one. And that is, I think that there's a huge opportunity to use the metrics that we're getting back from LDC more effectively, quite frankly, than we have to date, to be able to individualize support based on what we're seeing in terms of individual teachers pacing through course one. And I think for us, that would be the next level of using the tool effectively, is to be able to really dig in to the reporting that we're getting to individualize support for teachers.
And boy, I'm happy to think along with you, because I think that's a really important frontier for all of us, is to continue to be able to personalize, to use the artifacts and data that we have to enhance the quality of our implementation. I'm going to just switch gears here, and again, using a new webinar platform. So some of us may feel less comfortable with the microphone, and it's perfectly fine to use the written chat as well. But I'd like to throw out a discussion question that's come out from the field, and also pose one myself. Marilyn Klein is on from the National Literacy Project this month. I want to give a shout out to Marilyn for all her work in Lake County and all over Florida. Anyone that doesn't know Marilyn, she's really grounded in curriculum assessment and instruction, and lots of experience in schools. But Marilyn's on representing NLP, and one of the questions they have is, now that partner collections are possible, that opens up the opportunity for you to really decide what's in your collection. Those things could be all along a certain theme. For example, resources that are you could have a biology collection that's going to be the pathway towards success on meeting the competencies of that end of course assessment. You could have elementary comprehensive literacy strategies in a collection to target reading comprehension. These things do not necessarily need to be nationally juried or vetted or marked good to go or exemplary. So they're wondering is, now that this is possible, how are you vetting things locally? And you may not have thought about it yet, but how could you see vetting things in partner collections? So wondering what you folks are thinking about in terms of possible processes. You can use the Amy has some things to are creating things.
Hi Barb, this is Kelly Galbraith from IU13. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you great.
Thanks. Just in thinking about that, with the professional development that we provide at IU13, one of the things that I've incorporated into our cycle is the formative jurying feature. And so we have teachers go through a cycle of professional development where they create 2 modules in the course of a school year, one in the fall and one in the spring. And one of the things that we incorporated in December is that once teachers had an opportunity to score their student work from Module 1, they also submitted all of their modules to me for formative jurying. And that was a way that I could really see, give them feedback on their mini tasks, on their modules, and would inform their thinking before they began Module 2. So when you think about the scope of that, I think it was about maybe 40 modules that I juried for our existing cohort of teachers. So I think that that process was very helpful to them and could certainly assist me in developing our partner collection.
How are you thinking about building your jurying team or other people locally that might have capacity to do some of that work also? What are some ways that you're thinking about doing that?
Well, we've had a number of coaches locally and teacher leaders who've attended the national jurying trainings. So I'm encouraging folks to continue on that path with calibration modules to become national jurors. And I think as that pool is built, certainly at IU13, we have contracted with teachers. There's only one of me. We've contracted with teachers who have a lot of experience in giving feedback or have received coaching or have coaching experience with teachers to help provide feedback on modules. What's interesting is at School District of Lancaster, I even have a local middle school coach who's having all of her team, her 8 teachers she's working with right now, submit their modules to her for formative jurying for her feedback. Not as a score, but more as a collegial feedback kind of situation, since they do have an instructional coach.
That's great. Thank you so much for really giving an in-depth explanation of the systems you're building. Anybody else have any thoughts on how they're building that process locally, thinking about how they're going to vet what they could be putting into partner collections? Okay. One thing I can tell you is that we're cooking up some great things in support of the SREB conference this summer, and we are looking at running a 1.5-day jury and design studio in conjunction with SREB, and the dates for that conference are listed in the What's Next. That's such a tremendous conference each year, and we've just come off of working with the wonderful teachers at the Teaching and Learning Conference 2015 in DC, and many of the community who are on this call were part of that as well. We had about 75 attendees, just getting hands-on, and I think part of the secret is that formative jurying, as Kelly has said. As we move forward, the question I've posted really is, this is our 6-month anniversary of this meeting. I've talked to some of you informally, individually, about things you'd like to see. I'd love to hear from you and ask you to please put it in the chat or jump on the mic to provide some feedback. Send me offline an email or give me a call. How could we improve this meeting? This truly, it sounds hokey, but it truly is your meeting. We convene this monthly at the request of members of the community who've been saying, can we have regular updates? Can we talk about what we're learning and really have a preview of coming attractions? In some cases, it's as simple as, I don't want to stand in front of somebody to do a training and realize something changed in the last week or two on core tools. Or it could be, what are the big things I want to be thinking about to improve my local implementation? That's kind of how the meeting was born. What I'd like to hear from you is it serving its purpose? What kinds of things would you like to see in upcoming meetings? So I'm going to stop talking, let anyone who'd like to have the mic talk, and ask you to just place your comments around that in the chat. We've got multiple attendees typing and folks sharing. As we set up our agenda for this meeting, this is something I just want you to be thinking about. And we are always about rapidly improving. So if you have a different suggestion for this meeting, or even, hey, we don't need this meeting, we need to do something else, let us know. We're getting requests for things like Google Hangouts for elementary teachers. We've really begun to venture into virtual PD with bi-monthly webinars, with the Twitter chat. So we're looking for lots and lots of different ways to engage people. One of the things I'm seeing from Carol Ann is just having a standing time that you kind of know is dedicated to some updates and time to collaborate together is pretty valuable. One thing I've heard from picking Kelly Galbraith's brain is the idea of, could we begin to work on problems of practice together? Are there things like Amy Murphy's question that we could look at in advance or think about? We continue to collect PD models. So again, I'd love to hear from you. We'll archive the chat. I'm getting some great suggestions here, but please keep them coming. Anything from format to content to other things you'd like to see to engage the members of our community. We're really diverse, from people who are representing state agencies to big districts to consultants. So again, thank you all, and please keep those comments coming. I'd like to do a quick preview of what's next. And one of the things I'd be remiss if I didn't mention is that the spring juring deadline is coming up. May 1st, we hope that you're dusting off these modules and polishing them up. We hope that you can submit some, and we're happy to talk with you about, as Kelly did, ways to develop your own local juring systems. Also want to mention the other month, Michelle Lewis talked from Puget Sound. They are getting ready to have a close reading Twitter chat on May 2nd. And our May Twitter chat, featuring the lovely leaders of Louisiana, Sheila Banks and Company, is going to be May 6th. Stephen Elementary, Michael Corneau's school, is having a public classroom showcase in Florida. Registration is here. And I also want you to know that Eleanor Dougherty and Michelle Logan from Thompson School District in Colorado are going to be leading our next webinar. It'll be the last one for the school year, and then we'll be back in September. We really want to look at how you can go from mini to almost macro, and look at how you can build LDC into the framework of your system with performance tasks. So lots of great practical suggestions from Michelle and Eleanor at the end of May. You should be receiving information within the next couple days about the annual convening for partners. It will be in Denver, June 1st to 2nd. And then we have some other great summer events. You may or may not be able to make it to Arkansas, but watching the video promo about the LDC in Arkansas event is just a treat. So please check that out from Marshall Hurst and that dynamic team down there. Also, we are getting ready to announce some exciting supports for the SREB conference. And each year, that is just a wonderful week of teaching and learning. We really hope that you'll consider presenting, and we're going to be having some supports for presenters. We're looking at Lead and Learn fellowships, so stay tuned. You're going to hear a lot more about that. I'm just dropping a teaser. But we hope that you'll consider presenting or attending, and know that there will be a Juring and Design Institute as part of the conference. And our friends at the National Literacy Project have already announced their second national LDC event. That was really successful last year. They had teams from Texas, Arkansas, Florida, Tennessee, getting an introduction to LDC. So lots and lots of ways to get involved with LDC and with the community. I'm going to open it up to you for any questions or topics you'd like to discuss before we close.
I wanted to put a plug in. Really quick for a mini task challenge that's happening right now on Facebook. Some of you guys might have seen it, might have been invited by me probably. And I just wanted to put a plug in there. We're looking for ideas of what students are struggling with, and then trying to find solutions to those literacy struggles. And it's going really well. We've got about 200 teachers joined the group, but participation is a little bit low. We'd like to see more people suggesting what their key literacy struggles are, and more importantly, what some solutions in the way of mini tasks might be. So I'm going to put the link to the Facebook group in the bottom of the chat window, and if you would like to participate, if you'd like to give that link to your networks, we'd really appreciate it. And we're actually having a lot of fun. So.
Reminder to me to just mention again how excited I am that we are really reaching out to teachers in lots of different ways and connecting with them, and Facebook is one of those ways. Some of you may have noticed LDC Cat. I'm a dog person myself, but LDC Cat is one of our characters here on Facebook. One of the things we're excited about, along with the Mini Task Challenge, is that we are requiring more and more teachers who like the LDC Facebook page and are using it for professional learning. We know that more and more teachers are getting their professional learning virtually, and just like CTQ and the National Board Community have found, there are a lot of benefits for teachers in networking with teachers outside of their local context. It gives them a real sense of LDC and teaching as a movement. And next month, I hope to feature Pinterest, which we've also started working with. Folks, this brings us about to the end of our hour together. I'd like to thank each of you for participating today. Next month, we're going to hear from Kentucky as to how they're using their partner collection. And we'd certainly love to have you on the agenda or have you influence the agenda. So please don't hesitate to shout out to me about things you'd like to see. I'm going to take a moment to take a look at the chat. There's a lot of great conversation going on here. And to see if there's any other questions or topics for the group before we close. Okay, I'd just like to say thanks again to Alex and Cal for really giving us something to think about. And to everyone who's joined in the conversation. Marilyn, I hope you have some ideas to take back to Amy. Amy is defending her dissertation this month, and so that's really exciting for the NLP community. So thank you all, and